Please go to the police right away. Huh? What are you suddenly talking about? I, who have been nursing my husband with Alzheimer's for 20 years. On this day, we came to the doctor for an examination, but while my husband was undergoing the test, the doctor came to me and said so. Although I'm told to go to the police, I don't understand the reason. I got confused and asked the doctor for an explanation. You said that I should go to the police, but I don't know what my husband did. Upon hearing my question, the doctor's expression turned gloomy. I wonder what's wrong. Is it something that difficult to say? Please don't be shocked. Actually, since 20 years ago, your husband has been. The doctor began to reveal the truth slowly, and I couldn't hide my shock. I can't believe it. That my husband would do something like that. Is that true? When I asked again, the doctor nodded silently. Unbelievable. That he would do such a thing, behind my back. I ran out from the hospital, and headed straight to the nearest police station. My name is Amelia, and I'm turning 80 years old this year. I've been married to my husband William for 60 years. When he turned 60 years old, something happened. After retiring from the local factory, he had nothing to do, and gradually, symptoms resembling dementia began to appear. Hey, do you know where my glasses went? Glasses? Huh? You're wearing them right now. Oh, right. They were right here. When wearing glasses became a regular routine, sometime you might forget that you were already wearing it, and that could happen to anyone. But that was just the beginning. About 6 months after his retirement, he started saying things like, "Where is this place? Where is this, our home? It's my first time here, but I feel comfortable." He started to say something that does not make sense. Although it was only 3 o'clock in the early morning, he would suddenly wake up and go outside. Could this be dementia? I got worried, and one day, I took my husband to the hospital. "Oh, these symptoms indicate that dementia is progressing," the doctor said. "So, is there any way to treat it?" I asked. "A full recovery is difficult, however, there are symptomatic therapy available. It's better to undergo regular checkups and adjust the approach as needed," the doctor explained. I couldn't believe it. My husband had indeed developed dementia. I was the one who was shocked by receiving the diagnosis. Eventually, he might forget even me. That thought filled me with anxiety. "Do you recognize me?" I asked. "What are you talking about, Amelia, right?" "Of course, I do." With him calling my name and smiling, I made a decision. Worrying about it will change nothing. I would do everything that I can do for him. Since then, my life of nursing my husband has begun. 5 years had passed since his dementia diagnosis. Over time, he became more irritable. "Dinner's ready," I would say. "Who are you? How did you get in here?" He would angrily respond. "What are you talking about? It's me, Amelia." "I don't know you. Get out now. I don't want to eat food made by someone I don't know." He would often hurl such insults. Yet, a few minutes later, he'd ask, "Amelia, is dinner ready?" This is the dementia. I was constantly struggling with his deteriorating condition. As more years passed, we both turned 80 years old. It might be time to consider placing him in a care facility. He wandered late at night almost every day. Because of my husband, who rarely remembers my name anymore, I have had enough physically and mentally. You know, lately, I've been feeling physically exhausted too. You go out late at night, and I can't chase after you like I used to. What do you think about going to a care facility?" I suggested. "What? You want to put me in a facility? Don't be ridiculous. Why would I have to go there?" My husband became angry, making it impossible to continue the conversation. I couldn't handle everything on my own anymore, but without his consent, I couldn't place him in a facility. "Doctor, I'm physically exhausted too, and I can't manage it all. What should I do? I tearfully asked the doctor, frustrated that his condition wasn't improving. I knew that dementia couldn't be completely cured. I've been adjusting the medication dosage and types to match your husband's symptoms, but there's been no improvement. How about considering a care facility? The doctor suggested. But when I mentioned the facility, he got angry and refused, I explained. Is that so? The doctor and I were both at a loss about how to resolve this situation. In the end, it seemed like we had no choice but to endure and continue treatment. I left the hospital feeling disheartened. That evening, after having dinner at home, I noticed an envelope on the table. Had there been such an envelope here before? I was curious and asked my husband, without even looking at its contents. Hey, what's this envelope? Is it for me? Envelope. Ah. What's wrong? Why are you so flustered? I'm not flustered or anything. I casually asked my husband, but he had quite a panicked expression. When I reached for the envelope out of curiosity, he raised his voice to stop me. Hey, that's mine. Don't look at it without permission. Hand it over. Startled by his raised voice, I instinctively handed the envelope back to him. Still, I couldn't help but wonder what was inside the envelope, especially considering its thickness. Don't raise your voice like that. Here you go, I said as I handed the envelope over to my husband. He quickly rushed to the bedroom, leaving behind a cryptic comment as he left the living room. Did I manage to cover it up somehow? What did he mean by cover it up? I didn't understand the true meaning behind his statement, but he must be hiding something. While feeling puzzled, I also felt drowsy, so I decided to go to sleep for the night. 1 month later, my husband continued his habit of going out late at night. Every time he did, I woke up, but he always returned home eventually, so I stopped searching for him lately. However, what concerned me was that on the nights he went out late, he would always return around noon the next day, with a large quantity of groceries from convenience stores. Where did he get that money from, especially since he was retired? 3 days later, when it was time for my husband's regular checkup at the hospital, the doctor said something unbelievable. Please go to the police right away. What are you suddenly talking about? Even if I'm told to go to the police, I don't understand the reason. I got confused and asked the doctor for an explanation. You said that I should go to the police. But I don't understand what is going on. Upon hearing my question, the doctor's expression turned gloomy. I wonder what's wrong. Is it something that difficult to say? Please don't be too surprised. The truth is, your husband seems to have been lying for the past 20 years. What? I exclaimed. When I had a counseling session with your husband earlier, he mentioned that he's been going out late at night, quite often, and seemed pleased about it. So, I asked him where he was going, and he said it's his former workplace. If that's true, it could be considered trespassing. It might be best for you to consult the police before it becomes a serious issue, the doctor explained. I see. Well, considering the dementia, it's not entirely impossible for him to go to his old workplace, without really understanding why, I responded. But about that, there's a possibility that your husband might not actually have dementia, the doctor continued. What do you mean by that? For someone with dementia, his responses are surprisingly clear. Even after changing his medication, there's been no improvement. I've seen many patients, and some of them pretend to have dementia. Your husband appears to be one of them. As the doctor slowly revealed the truth, I couldn't hide my shock. So, all the symptoms until now were just an act? Pretending to have dementia and sneaking into his old workplace late at night? Could it be that the contents of that envelope? What's the likelihood that he's lying? I asked. He's aging, so there's a slight decline in cognitive function, but I believe more than 80% of it is likely a lie, the doctor replied. I couldn't let this continue. If what the doctor said was true. Since my husband's tests would take more time, I left him with the doctor and immediately left the hospital for the nearest police station. I have something to consult about. What's the matter with such a hurry? Is there any incident? Well, it's not exactly an incident, but seems like my husband has been pretending to have dementia and sneaking into a factory at night. Huh? Is that true? I can hardly believe it myself, but the doctor mentioned there's a possibility he's pretending to have dementia. I see. Understood. We'll do our patrols more often and handle this. Could you please provide your phone number, address, and your name? I filled out the information as instructed by the police, and then returned to the hospital. My husband had already completed his examination and was waiting in the waiting area. Sorry for taking so long. I had something to attend to, I explained. I've been waiting forever. Let's go home already, he impatiently replied. I hoped there wouldn't be any issues, but that night, my husband left the house again. I assumed he was going to his former workplace, so I waited at home. Then, an hour later, despite the late night, the landline phone rang. Could it be? Hello? I apologize for calling so late. We have just arrested your husband on charges of theft and trespassing. It seems he was stealing money from a safe. What? Trespassing, I could somewhat understand, but theft? He had really been doing that. My bad feeling had come true. I was sure the envelope he had been desperately hiding from me contained the stolen money, and he had been using it to buy a large quantity of groceries from convenience stores. I see. Finally, it all makes sense now. We would like you to come to the station now. Could you do that? We'd like to hear about his usual behavior, the officer said. I understand. I quickly prepared and hailed a taxi, heading to the police station. To think that he had been deceiving me and doing such things for the past 20 years. My anger toward my husband overwhelmed any sadness. Inside the police station, I was led to the interrogation room. He's been calling your name repeatedly and not cooperating with our questions. Could we have a word with him? We'll be listening in, the officer explained. All right. Prompted by the police, I took a seat in the interrogation room. My husband sat across from me, looking dejected. Do you recognize me? I asked. I don't know. I don't even know why I'm here, he replied. Even at this point, he was continuing with the charade. He needed to stop it already. I slammed my hand on the table and raised my voice. How long are you going to keep up this ridiculous act? I already know that. You've been lying about dementia. I scolded him. Lying? I have dementia. You're the one who should understand that the most, he retorted. If it's not a lie, then how come you suddenly remember my name, after claiming not to know it, just a while ago? I pointed out. He was completely caught off guard. My husband looked like he had dug himself into a hole. You see, it was a lie, wasn't it? Besides, the doctor mentioned it, that they've seen patients who pretend to have dementia. They were surprised that there was no change after changing the medication. It's no wonder there were no improvements. You weren't suffering from dementia in the first place, I continued pressing. When I questioned him further, my husband fell silent. Why don't you say something? You've wasted 20 years of my life. And stealing money from your former workplace. This wasn't the first time, was it? So why lie and pretend to have dementia? I demanded. Well, I thought if I pretended to have dementia, I might get a lighter sentence if I ever got caught. He admitted sheepishly. Unbelievable. Was there no better reason for his actions? You were sneaking into the factory every night and stealing repeatedly. You had no income, and your allowance wasn't that substantial, yet you were buying a ridiculous amount of stuff from the convenience store. And lying? It's all pointless. They could easily figure it out if they investigated at the factory, I scolded him. But honestly, not just my husband, even the factory was incredibly careless to not notice thefts happening repeatedly. What kind of management were they running? I lost control. After I quit my job, my income decreased, and I wanted some extra money, so I just... He finally admitted it. Nevertheless, it was both my husband's fault and mine. I should have restricted his actions much earlier. 20 years of fooling me. If you needed extra money, you should have worked as a silver-collar worker or something, I scolded him. You're right. It's just that the company's money management was so lax and the calculations did not add up often. So, I thought it wouldn't hurt to take a bit, he confessed. Ugh. You're such an idiot. There's no excuse for what you've done. We're getting divorced, I declared. Wait. Please, If we get divorced, how am I going to live without your support? He pleaded. I don't care. You've taken away 20 years of my life. I should demand compensation, I said. Well, he was probably broke, considering he had to resort to theft for extra money. My husband seemed to have nothing left to say, lowering his head and remaining silent. That's how it is. Reflect on your actions in prison, okay? Then, I'll leave the rest to you, I told the police before leaving the interrogation room. Just before leaving, I heard my husband's anguished cry, but I pretended not to hear. A month later, the divorce was finalized, and I was enjoying a stress-free life at home. I received a call from the police, informing me that my ex-husband had been sentenced to prison. Your husband has been convicted, as you mentioned. They found evidence of previous thefts as well. The sentence has been confirmed, so we're calling to let you know, they said. I see. This have caused you quite some trouble. Well, I'm not involved with him anymore, so whether he goes to prison or not doesn't concern me. Oh, and please tell him that I wish him good luck with his prison life, I replied. With that, I hung up the phone. In the end, my ex-husband received a 5-year sentence, and it was decided that he would go to prison. If he spends 5 years in prison, he might never get out again. He could even pass away in there. He brought this upon himself, deceiving people for his own gain, and repeatedly stealing. Let him live the rest of his life in prison. After hanging up the phone, I thought these things about my ex-husband. A year later, I received a letter. The sender's name on the envelope was my ex-husband's. A letter from him. I wonder what's going on, I thought. I had never received a letter from my ex-husband before. Slightly curious about its contents, I sat on the living room sofa and began to read the letter. First, I want to apologize for deceiving you all these years. I'm truly sorry, and I hope you can accept this letter as my apology. Right now, I'm in prison, doing labor alongside people of all ages, from young to old. I really have nothing to do, and sometimes I forget various things. I wonder if this is what real dementia is like. When my sentence is over, would you consider living together again? I swear to the heavens and earth that I'll never deceive you again. After reading the letter, I tore it up and threw it in the trash. Live together again? He must be joking. The next day, I immediately signed a lease for a cheap apartment. I didn't want to continue living in a house where he might return. Thankfully, I had some savings, so I managed to secure a new place and moved in promptly. Of course, I didn't inform my ex-husband about any of this. I'm sure he would keep sending letters to the empty house, since he is unaware of it. I knew my time was limited. From now on, I vowed to live out the rest of my life peacefully on my own.